Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello, story changers, and welcome back to another episode of the Isolation Inspiration Interview Series. Today's guest is Jayc Ryder. Jayc is a unique, intuitive spiritual love, life, and business coach. He represented Australia on the reality TV show Battle of the Psychics, which was filmed in Ukraine and watched by an audience of over 34 million people. He was awarded third place best in the world, competing against some of the best psychic mediums from America, Europe, and Asia. Jayc then went on to co-host 16 episodes of Psychic Investigations, solving murders, mysteries, mystical scenarios, and much, much more. Both these TV shows have been syndicated worldwide on the Russian cable TV networks. After 30 years of work with intuition, love, energy clearing, past lives, spirituality, values, and beliefs, Jayc has changed thousands of lives. With clients in multiple countries having multiple belief systems, Jayc completely respects all denominations, all belief systems, and the varying natures of each belief. In addition, Jayc teaches online and business marketing, having taught over 300 people YouTube marketing, been affiliate manager for a $1 million online launch, and spoken on stages all over the world about business topics including international financial systems, business structures, and marketing. In this interview, you will learn your home is wherever you are right now. Your purpose in life is to be loved and love others. Everything in your life changes with action. And use coronavirus as an opportunity to learn. You're going to learn this and so much more in this interview with Jayc Ryder. Jayc, welcome to the Author Your Life podcast.
It's nice to be here.
I'd like to kick things off with giving you the opportunity to share some of your story with us today. Let's get to know you.
Okay. My story is... how do I explain it? Pretty weird. Many people will look at what I've achieved in my life and go, how did you achieve all that? And that's because I took a step back and I decided I wanted to live every day. But where did all that come from? Well, I started out as that shy kid. I was the shy, skinny, weedy kid at school who got bullied all the time. And I currently have a signature speech that I'm performing called From Shy to Spectacular, and it tells the story of how I was bullied, and then I moved into speaking and my business world. Well, as far as business was concerned, I grew up, I ran supermarkets in my late teens. I was the youngest manager in the supermarket industry in New Zealand. It's where I'm from originally. And I learned how to run a supermarket. I had staff, I hired and fired, and I was 18. I remember one day sitting in the office, waiting for the armored truck to arrive to take away the cash. It was a Saturday morning, and we had $500,000 in cash sitting on the table, waiting for the armored truck, because that's our turnover for the week. And I will never forget that moment. I sat in a room and I'm staring at all this money. And I was the guard. Weedy, skinny me guarding $500,000. But it's one of those moments you look back and you go, yeah, somebody pointed a gun at me. What would I do? I'd hand them the money. I'd help them fill the bag. But it was an amazing, it was just one of those stories. I moved on into losing the use of my arm and had glove anesthesia, and I'm all cured now, but I spent 10 years with the word disabled stamped across my forehead by the government and medical profession, which helped me understand more about life. And that's also when my alternative abilities showed themselves even more. Because I am a psychic medium. I do all the woo-woo la-la stuff. Some people are very, and others are skeptical. Well, for me, that stuff became very real. But what I learned was how to integrate my spiritual, and I'm non-religious, my spiritual beliefs, my values with my business ethics, my work habits. And I put it all together, and I've used those skills ever since in everything that I do. So I then got into the speaking industry, and I loved the opportunity to speak on stages in front of people. And I joined the corporate industry and was speaking 3 times a day, groups in front of 2 to 200. And I was designing business solutions. It was an amazing world, but it wasn't enough. And in 2006, I'd had enough. I'd been working 40, 50 hours a week, which isn't bad. But then I'd teach dancing. I was teaching dancing for 6 years as well. So I'd go from work, I'd then go dancing and teach dancing till midnight. I'd get home about 2 a.m. and then I'd get up at 6 to go back to work. It was a crazy life, crazy. But I loved my life. And then in 2006, I had a holiday, had a 5-week holiday in Thailand. It was my first long break in, my life. I'd never had a break that long since I left school. I came back to work and realized, what am I doing this for? This is ridiculous. So I bought a juice and smoothie bar on the Gold Coast of Australia. I quit my job. My boss had kittens. He was not impressed at me leaving. He replaced me, incidentally, with 2 people. Yeah. And then I spent a year on the beach growing a business. And it was a real life changer. I mean, I'm up at 6:30 every morning to go to the shop. I'd open it and I'd serve the surfers, and I'd have companies. I remember, did you ever see the TV show Big Brother?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we had that on the Gold Coast in Australia. Now, where I was on the Gold Coast, I was at the bottom of the Gold Coast, a place called Currumbin. And most beautiful beach you could ever imagine. And from my shop window, I could look out and see dolphins and whales and surfers, and it was pretty sweet. Anyway, on a Thursday and Friday, Big Brother would film their Friday night game. So Thursday, they'd do the preparation, and on Friday, they'd do the filming. Well, the producer of the Friday night games for the show Big Brother, he lived 10 minutes drive from my shop. But because he'd come to my shop one weekend and sampled my breakfast smoothie, he loved it so much, and it sustained him so much for that day, he would drive south 10 minutes to my shop every Thursday, every Friday. He would get his breakfast smoothie, and then he would drive the 40 minutes north to the Big Brother location at Dreamworld. Yeah, Dreamworld, I think is the name of the place where they filmed it. And so it got to a point there while they were filming, I'd see his car pull up, I'd make his smoothie, I'd hand deliver it to him before he got out of the car. So, you have these fun experiences and different life experiences. But I automated that business and turned it into a 6-figure organization and then sold it, made my profit and left. I got into internet marketing. I was an affiliate manager for one of the major internet marketers in the world. And in the meantime, I'm still doing all the woo-woo spiritual stuff, changing people's lives, helping people with everything from, where do I start? Well, grief is usually the first place, because most people are from a medium, they want to know something from someone from the other side. And the way I work where that's concerned is I give evidence. And I can share with you some evidence if you want of one story. And it's one of my favorite evidential stories. Yes, you'd like it?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So here we go. I'm here in Ukraine. Now I'll get to why I'm in Ukraine in a moment, but here I am in Ukraine. I have Mama, Papa, and Babushka, Grandma, come to me. And they're speaking in Russian. Now I had my translator with me because I'm not fluent. I've got a lot to learn. I know some important words, but I'm not fluent by a long way. So we're in this village in regional Ukraine, and they've come to my apartment to meet me because they want some answers. So they come in, they sit down, and they say, now they're speaking in Russian, it's being translated to me. They said, our 18-year-old daughter was killed by a train. What can you tell me? We want to know what happened. So I did what I do, and I connected with her, and I said to them, she's telling me to tell you feet. She says her feet are really important. Now, I don't know about you, but right that moment, I was thinking, am I going crazy? Feet. I've got to tell these people feet. This is nuts. The skepticism within me, the doubt within me was still there. When they heard about the feet. When they heard the word feet in Ukrainian, they burst into tears. Now, Grandma was looking there going, huh? This guy's crazy. He just said feet. When the girl was hit by the train, she was walking alongside the track on her phone having a fight with her boyfriend. The train came up behind her and hit her, knocking her under the train and chopped off her feet. When they recovered the body, her feet were not recovered. Now that information has, 1, never been in the public. 2, only the coroner and the mother and father know this. 3, it's not on Facebook. It's not something you can look in the news. It's not reported anywhere. It's not something that you could go to the local village and talk to the people and pick up the information, or however else other skeptics say you can do it. You can't get that information from cold reading or any other entertainment tricks. That was evidence. I then helped that family deal with the grief. Then the grandmother, she said to me, and it's funny when I'm telling these stories, because I've done quite a few podcasts, the hosts always sit there and go, I'm normally asking more questions, but I'm listening. And you've got that look on your face that you're listening.
I don't interrupt very much, to be fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Babushka said to me, I had a fight with my granddaughter the day before she died. Does my granddaughter love me? Now, I don't know about you, but when you're dealing with people who want to know that they are loved, the last thing you do is manipulate them by saying, oh, yeah, she loves you. Any idiot can say that. Any fool can say that.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more integrity and ethics, personal ethics than that. And I said to her, okay, let me check. And I breathed and I looked and I connected. Well, my hand started moving. My index finger pointed and started moving in circles. And I'm going, she's making me do this. And my other arm, my left arm then came up, and I started making a motion looking like I was holding a bowl and stirring. And while I'm doing this, I went, okay, for what I can see, it's white. It's a bit fluffy, but it's really thick. It's like a really thick egg white. You know, when you're making a meringue and the white is really, really thick, but it's not eggs, but it's really thick and white. Well, Babushka just goes, oh, grabs her face, exclaims. Let me ask you a question and I'll explain this a bit more. Do you have a relationship with your grandparents?
Yeah.
Okay, is there something unique about it? Is there something that's between you and your grandpa or your grandma that was unique? For me, with my grandpa, it was the green cup, plate, and saucer. As a child, I would always take that from the kitchen table, from his place, and put it in my place. It was our thing. Okay, so then we all have that thing. Well, this young girl, when she would go to Babushka's, Babushka would make her special mashed potato with all sorts of treats inside it that the granddaughter loved. And granddaughter would have this breakfast, lunch, dinner, no matter when she was at Babushka's, and she was always, Babushka, make mashed potato, пожалуйста, please, mashed potato, katoshka, potato. It was their thing. Grandma was smiling and crying at the same time at this point because she knew that her granddaughter loved her. Because again, how was I to know that this girl would love mashed potatoes made by grandma? Not on Facebook, not on the news. It's a personal situation. It's a really lovely personal situation. Now, some people say, oh yeah, but that's just generic. Everybody loves mashed potato. This was specific to them because of their relationship. It was unique. Now, a year later, a friend of mine who runs a pharmacy in that village, she knows me well. And she had a person come into the shop, into the pharmacy, saying, hey, you know that Jayc fellow, don't you, from Bitfacts That Are Sensitive? The woman goes, yes, I do. I was just talking to this babushka, and she was telling her a year later the experience and how happy she was and how healed she was from the grief and the pain of losing her granddaughter. I managed to take the most horrific situation in life, losing a child, and turn it into endless love, so that the parents and the grandmother could spend the rest of their life, yes, sad that they'd lost the daughter and granddaughter, but knowing how much love they had. Now, I ended up in Ukraine in 2012 because I wanted to learn, I wanted to prove to myself that I was a good psychic medium. And so I was invited to represent all the psychics from Australia, because I was resident in Australia back then. And I represented Australia on a TV show called Bitfacts That Are Sensitive here in Ukraine. They chose me out of every psychic in Australia. Every psychic. And they had the Australian Psychic Association Rolodex. And I was chosen. to represent the country. I then spent 6 months here in Ukraine filming 13 episodes. Now, each episode had around 2 or 3 major tasks in it. So we did around 50 takes, or 50 tasks, I should say, for the 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, I was awarded third place best psychic medium in the world. Now, I was competing against people from the UK, the US, Canada, Azerbaijan, Russia, Ukraine, Czech Republic, Europe, that had 70,000 applicants for this show. They'd whittled it down to 150, and when I arrived, I was in the top 20. And by the end of 6 months, I was number 3. But I spent the first 3 months competing against everyone else. I wanted to be better than them. Well, that was a mistake, wasn't it? I was exhausted. I had to travel away for a week to do the visa run and also to get my winter clothes because it was starting to get cold. And I'm on the plane, and it's 30 hours with 3 planes to fly back from Ukraine to Australia. And I'm sitting on the plane going, I'm not enjoying this. What am I doing wrong? And I heard, you're competing. You're trying to prove you're better than this other person. But you don't have to prove anything to anyone about you. You don't have to compete with them because you will never be better than them. You do not have their experience, you do not have their knowledge, you do not have their physical attributes, you do not have their mental attributes, you do not have their life. So stop comparing yourself to them. Be you instead. Just be the best version of you. Don't try and be better than anyone else. Just be you. Now, when I came back with that new attitude, oh boy, did my game change. Whilst everyone else in the competition was stressing, I was having fun. I now had fun. I was now more relaxed. And the more relaxed I got, the better my readings were, the better my results were. And the more I was allowing myself to shine, the more I was allowing myself to be me, authentically me. I had to learn who that was. But the more I was me, the easier it became. Now, whilst I was here, they said to us, I remember this, Friday, I got a phone call from the studio in my hotel, and they said, you've got the next 3 days off. Congratulations. We're not doing any filming. You've got the weekend and Monday off. We'll start filming again on Tuesday. And I was very skeptical about that because they'd ring us one day and say, you're not working tomorrow. And then an hour later ring us again and say, oh, you're working tomorrow. And I said, are you sure? And they went, yes, we're sure, positive. Everyone's got the weekend off. Okay. What did I do? I jumped on the laptop and started looking for flights to Italy, to Paris, somewhere where I can go, although right now I wouldn't necessarily be able to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But back then it was, I'll go and spend the weekend in Paris, or I'll go spend the weekend in Italy, and yay! 20 minutes later, my phone rings. It's the other administrator. Jayc, you need to pack a bag. We're filming with you this weekend. I mean, no, you're not. This person just said, I've got the weekend off. Yeah, no, this has come from the director of television. me, we're going on a trip to film a different TV show. You're not filming Bitverx, the censored Battle of the Psychics. You're filming Psychic Investigations. You're going to co-host an episode. He wants to see how good you are at hosting and doing investigations. So the next morning at 5 a.m., I'm taken to the studio and we drive for 14 hours to an area close to the Romania border. And I'm not going to say the actual name of the location because it's a place where drugs and stuff come through. We ended up doing a murder investigation and we brought peace to the family. Now, one of the fun things about being there, we were there, we drove on the Saturday to the village. On the Sunday, we filmed from 7 in the morning till 11 p.m. at night. We had a 2-hour break from 3 till 5 for food. Now, I want to tell you about the food because here I am, we've got 50 people. So we've got the crew of 23 plus the 2 psychics, 25. Then we've got the members of the families that we were investigating with, plus the mayor of the city. And we've taken over the one and only restaurant that was in the city. And there's this huge long table. Now, I don't know if you know much about Ukraine, but they love pork. And so there's pork this way, pork that 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 way, potatoes. Pork, 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 potatoes, pork, pork, more pork, more pork. However, every second seat, you've got pork, 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 potatoes, vodka. Pork, 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 potatoes, vodka. Pork, 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 potatoes, vodka. I'm not a drinker, but I'm surrounded. I've got the crew who are going, Jayc, drink, giving me shots of vodka. After 3 shots, I said to the cameraman, no. We have another scene to film. You want me standing up or asleep in the bus? No more shots. When I got back on the Monday night, we got back at 10 p.m. Monday night. At 8 a.m. the next morning, I was picked up and taken for filming. All my colleagues had had 3 days rest. All my competitors. I hadn't. But I gave what I needed to give. And then I said to them, put me on the bus. I'm going home. I'm going back to the hotel. I'm sleeping. And they did. But the whole point of it was, after what they saw, I then went on to co-host 16 episodes of Psychic Investigations. And I've solved murders. We've had people put in jail because of the information, the evidential information I've provided.
Wow.
I've given families answers to suicides and mystical situations, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. Now, I've deliberately helped a lot of people get closure on loss, because one of my gifts is when you hug me, if you've got a loved one who has passed, I can channel their energy through me so you can feel as though you're being hugged by them. Now, if you're a grieving mother and your child is dead, when you get a hug from me, if you can feel your child hugging you, what sort of peace does that bring to your heart? Yeah, it's huge. I had one father whose daughter was murdered, raped, and it was a horrific story. He came to me at the end of the filming that night, the big Russian guy.
Yeah.
Big guy, huge. And he said to me, thank you so much for what you did. You have finally brought peace to my heart and to the heart of my wife. And with tears in his eyes and these big, massive arms, these big hands, he grabs me and gives me the biggest, most loving hug you could ever imagine. I brought him peace. He'd lost his 14-year-old daughter through a horrible criminal experience. And what I did brought him peace. That's why I'm still in Ukraine today. Because I have an audience of over 34 million people who see me on TV. The shows have been syndicated on the Russian cable network worldwide. I have people in every country, and those shows have been syndicated to an audience of over 100 million people. Now, if you'd said to me 10, 15 years ago, oh, you're going to live in Ukraine and be on TV around the world,
Yeah.
I would have gone, huh? Really?
Something that stood out to me is, as you've been talking, Jayc, is a constant change of environment. All the different things in this job and this business and this country and this TV show, your environment has constantly been switching throughout your life.
Yes.
How have you adapted to these changes of environment again and again?
Well, as a chameleon adapts to its external environment by changing the way it looks, I adapt to my environment because wherever I lay my hat, there's my home. Now, if you know the song, wherever I lay my hat, there's my home. So for me, I am not bound to one location as home. Yes, I was born in New Zealand and I grew up there. It's not home. It just happens to be the country that I have a passport from. Thank you. I'm very grateful for that passport. It's enabled me to do all sorts of fun things. I lived in Australia for like 16 years. Yeah, it was about 16 years. But in Australia, I was in Sydney, I was in Brisbane, I was further up in Queensland, I was on the Gold Coast. So whilst, yes, I moved around, I was still in my own culture. And it was easy. It was very easy for me to fit in. I was taught to fit in rather than stand out. And that was the worst thing that my mum and my dad could have ever done, was teach me that. They also taught me, I remember my mum saying these words when I started dating. I was a teenager and she said, now, whatever you do, dear, don't make a girl cry. Okay. What do you think I do now when I'm coaching people who have huge amounts of grief in them? I make them cry.
Encourage them to cry. Yeah.
That's the release.
Yeah.
That's the trigger. So I get them to cry.
Yeah.
And when they cry, they feel better because that energy is released. I also do some other energy work as well and use some other modalities that I have. But it was the worst advice my mum could have given me. Don't make anyone cry. Now I make people cry. I had one gentleman who I was advising his wife at the time to leave him because he'd been beating her and he was violent. And he was another big Ukrainian guy. He was a truck driver. Now his hands, one hand was the size of two of my hands. Later that day when I shook his hand, I could not put my thumb and little finger around his hand to shake his hand. His hands were so big. Wow. He was huge. He leaned over me while I was working with his wife and my translator, and he started using very bad Russian language. Now, in English, we have a couple of four-letter words that are pretty bad. In Russian language, there are more versions of those. They have multiple words that are much, much worse. And so he was saying those words, and my translator, I said to her, what's he saying? And she goes, nah, I'm not translating that. All you need to know is they're bad Russian words. And I went, well, now remember, I'm not a violent person. I'm not a fighter. In the words of what was it? Was it Michael Jackson that said it? I'm a lover, not a fighter. That was an old, I can't remember where that quote came from, but I'm a lover, not a fighter. And this man, he was standing there, leaning over me. Now, at this point, his hands have turned into fists. And I'm questioning, is he about to thump me? Am I going to get hit? I'm sitting in his kitchen, and he's getting angry and abusive. Now, he had only on shorts. He had been drinking. He was drunk, and he was all sweaty and hairy. Pretty disgusting combination, I'm afraid. Sorry, it was the most disgusting picture ever. And he smelt, the alcohol,
Yeah.
that horrible, stale alcohol smell. I looked at him and I went, well, I need to deal with this. Punching him is not an option. I couldn't run because he's standing between me and the door. How do I handle it? So I looked at him and I did what I do. And I could see inside him a little boy with a broken heart whose daddy didn't love him, who never showed him the love that he needed, who never understood him. And so I shared that piece of information, and also about how my own father was an alcoholic and the challenges that I had dealing with alcoholism as a child, as having a parent who's an alcoholic. And I got my translator to explain that to him. Do you know what happened within the split second of him hearing my words from my translator?
Cried.
What do you think happened?
I'm going to go for cried, I think.
He instantly burst into tears.
Yeah.
And he goes, you understand? You Panamaya? Panamaya means understand. And I'm, da Panamaya. And then he's, yati balu blue, which means I love you. I then stood up in my beautiful clothes. I put my arms around him and I hugged him. Now remember, he's all disgusting, sweaty and smelly. Yeah. And I hugged him and I held him while he sobbed on my shoulder. His anger wasn't because he was a bad person. His anger was because he had so much grief and sadness inside, because he had never been understood as a child. I still recommended to his wife, and I showed her how to leave him, because she needed to, for her own safety. He still had a lot more healing to do. But from that moment onwards, he wanted me to go fishing with him, have barbecues, be his best friend, because I understood him.
Yeah. It's interesting that you have this insight into Ukrainian culture and I guess Russian culture. I think we sometimes see them as similar, but there probably are distinctions. I guess Ukraine's a less than fashionable country. I don't think too many people listening will have been to Ukraine, never mind lived in the Ukraine as you do. Can you share if there's anything that you've learned from Ukrainian culture?
Okay, I will in a second, but also just note, I have clients in every country in the world, through Asia, the USA, Canada, the UK, Germany, Italy. I have clients everywhere. So I'm not culture specific. But what I've learned with Ukrainians is they are survivors, first of all. They have gone through horrific experiences in their lifetimes. But they survive. They have very much a can-do attitude. They have some of the most beautiful hearts and souls you could ever meet of a society. I've been invited into homes. Now, yes, I'm a TV star here. I get recognized in the street and in the metro and in the supermarket, all those fun things. I get invited into people's homes and they share with me their food. They share with me the bathroom facilities. They share with me their personal life. They open up to me. Now, all my clients from every country do that. But what I've found here in Ukraine is the people here, they don't have a lot, some of them. Ukraine is a country of contrast. We have very rich and we have very poor. No middle class. The middle class here are all expats. Ukrainian salary here, the average salary, well, actually, let me start with the pension. If you're unemployed, the pension is 4,753 hryvnia, which works out at around about $150 a month. And we have European and American prices here for clothing, for shoes, for products. Some of the services are much cheaper. The property is a lot cheaper. But the people here, whilst they may not, the average person here is not rich. They are rich in their heart and their soul. They love their culture. They love their country. The patriotism here is just beautiful. And I have some amazing Ukrainian friends. I just love them to pieces. They are so incredible. They're amazing, an amazing culture. I got amazing Russian friends. I've got amazing German, Italian, UK, Asian, people from the US, American friends. I've got some gorgeous American friends. I've got people from Peru, Argentina, basically every country in the world, I've got people. And one thing that I've found and learnt from all of them is everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to feel validated. Everyone wants to feel brave enough to take the actions to live their life. But so many of them are afraid to take those actions because they're going to go through pain of change. And one thing that I say to everyone when I'm coaching them, I say to them, right, first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have 3 months of craziness. Are you ready for that? Because you are going to have 3 months of craziness. And why am I going to have craziness happen? Because you're going to learn your beliefs. You're going to learn your values, and I'm going to hold you accountable to them. If you say you can do something, you do it. And I hold you accountable. And if you can't do it, we work out why you can't and we move you past that. And we help you release what stops you. It's important to help people to be in that place of loving themselves and being themselves. And that's one of the benefits I find of living in Ukraine. Ukrainians are Ukrainian. They are not Russian. They are mixed families, yes. They have both Russian and Ukrainian in their families, yes. But Ukrainians are Ukrainian and they're proud of it. And I'm very proud to be a resident in this country. I love this country and I love all the people here. But this is just one of my many homes. Because no matter which country I'm in, I'll always make it home. Because the one thing that is constant throughout all the change, no matter what I'm doing, it's me. No matter where I am, I'm the constant factor. So the more I'm at home within me, it doesn't matter where I live.
Another thing I think it's useful to ask you again, given your experiences, is that you have had a lot of experience of grief and bereavement. What has that taught you about life?
I've had personal experience of grief and bereavement through dying myself. Let me explain. In 2015, I died. On the operating table, I had emergency surgery where my small intestine burst. Now it's got a scar all the way around, plus 3 other small scars. And I now have a scar also from my, well, let's just say my bra line. Okay, because we all know where the bra line is. Okay, it goes straight down my belly, around my belly button, straight down to the beginning of my pubic line. They sliced me open because of it had burst. I had 5 surgeons here in Ukraine saving my life. But on the table I died, and whilst I was dead, I met Archangel Michael. I had a near-death experience. I met him, and I met 10,000 angels, and that gave me a different view on life. He gave me a message, and the short version of the message is, I have many lives to save, so I've got to go back. That's the short version. Coming back, I understood I had to learn to live in each moment, to completely commit to the moment, not to tomorrow, not to last week, not to next month or next year, but to this moment now. And to be 100% me in this moment. Because then, if anything was to happen, the International Space Station fell out of the sky and knocked down my building right now and killed everyone in the building, including me. Do I have any regrets for my life? There's a couple. But I've had a pretty good life. I've got new adventures coming up. I've got amazing new adventures coming up, and I can see them. And it's wonderful being able to do that. But I am living in this moment today, right now, 100% here on this podcast. Not, oh, here's my phone. I'll just check Facebook while we talk. And, oh, hang on, I've got a notification. I've also got, oh, hang on. Oh, look out the window. Oh, no. I'm 100% here in this moment. And I'm in that with every person that I interact with, any relationship that I have. I'm 100% invested in the time. And people laugh at me, especially when I say about my cat. Now, at the beginning of this, before we started recording, I said to you my cat had woken up and she might interrupt us because she'd only just woken up half an hour before we started recording. Well, fortunately, I took time out to give her attention, to make sure she had her food, her toilet is clean, she's an indoor cat, and I gave her her cuddles. Now, they're just as important for her as they are for me.
Yeah.
And since we started recording, she's now gone back to her bed and she's sound asleep. It's understanding the needs of those that are important to you and giving to them. That's what I've learned most of all through seeing all the grief and bereavement. Live. Now, there are people at the moment, as we're filming this, we're all on quarantine. They're complaining about life. They're looking at the numbers changing on the websites that have the death toll on them. Oh, for God's sake, turn them off. Turn off the negativity and look at the person who you're sitting next to and give them a moment of your time. Talk to them. Hold their hand. Connect with them. Show them that I'm 100% here for you in this moment. And just be in that moment and be in that place and watch what happens to your relationships. Watch what happens to your life. Watch what happens to your happiness. The other stuff doesn't matter. Money comes, money goes, money flows. It's just a tool. The more we are in flow, the more we relax, the more we allow, the more we receive, the more we can give, the more empowered we are. That's the biggest thing I've learned through all this grief. And I look at the families whose lives I've touched. I've got a woman whose husband, it was supposedly a suicide, but he was actually murdered. But because of the situation, it was too dangerous to do the investigation further, because the police that were investigating this, they had heart attacks. And the files disappeared. Yeah. So how did I help her more? I helped her come to terms with being in the moment for her children. I helped her find peace so that she could find a new person to love and to be loved by. Because for those of you who are missing out on and always asking, what's my purpose? I don't know my purpose in life. Oh, I can tell everyone your purpose. Everyone that is listening to you right this minute, I will give you your purpose. Are you ready for this?
I've got a guess. I'll see if I'm right.
Your purpose. And I want to do the Mission Impossible tune right now, but that's a bit cheesy. Your purpose, should you choose to accept it, is to love and be loved. That's it. Every human being in the world has the same purpose, to love and be loved. And people will go, no, my purpose is to be a doctor in the Red Cross and help do surgery for those who are injured on the front line in horrible countries where there's war. No, your purpose is to love and be loved. Your passion is your skills and abilities that enable you to be loved and to love. My purpose is not to be a psychic medium. My purpose is not to be a coach. My purpose is not to be on TV as a detective or a host of a TV show. That's not my purpose. My purpose was not to manage a supermarket and stick baked beans on a shelf. That wasn't my purpose. Those were my passions. Those were my skills. Those were my abilities. And that's where my skills, my abilities, and my passions enable my purpose. I'm here right this minute to love and be loved. And the words that I'm sharing are to empower those listening to feel the love, to understand that they're here to love and be loved. Look at the people in your life who do not have love. Now you can tell I love my cat. She's a gorgeous little soul, and having cuddles with her is beautiful. I have amazing friends in my life whom I love. I have an abundance of love all around me from both my close relationships to those greater relationships of my clients and of my audience. I have people in the street stop me, strangers who say, I saw your show. I saw what you did to that family. Thank you for that. Okay. Because I'm living my passion. I'm living my skills and abilities. I'm discovering what they are. That's why I've made so many changes in my life. I wanted to see what I could do. I've driven trucks. The only thing I haven't driven is a bus. I've flown a plane. I can fly a plane. I have sat in the cockpit of a plane, held the controls, flown it around, and landed. Yes, I had the instructor next to me. It was a real plane, but I did it. It was awesome. Will I get a pilot's license? Not interested in that. Just wanted to have the experience. I wanted to see. I wanted to learn more about me. And I learned a lesson about me at that time. We do these things to learn lessons, to understand who we are, and to grow. And life is so flipping amazing right now. There are so many opportunities for everyone that's at home at the moment that are listening to this during the quarantine. You have the entire world at your fingertips. Learn a new skill, build the skills that you have, connect with someone, communicate with them. This time we have is unprecedented. It's so unique. And we have such a beautiful opportunity now to communicate and connect.
I'm glad you've brought us onto this time, Jayc, because this is something that I did want to touch upon. I remember earlier you were talking about when you want to change, be ready for 3 months of craziness. And I thought, well, we're kind of coming up to 3 months of craziness just now. What's the situation like in Ukraine? Because every country is a little bit different. Tell us a bit about what's going on there.
Okay, where the quarantine is concerned,
yeah,
we have a very compliant society because of the Soviet upbringing. Because Ukraine back in '91 became a democratic country, so we have a society who are used to doing as they're told, and so a good 80 to 90% of our community are observing the quarantine. Now, I'm in a building of 500 apartments. It's a relatively new building. And we have a sign on the entrance saying, please do not do any apartment repairs during the quarantine. Because people renovate and make their apartments prettier. Nobody's doing any building work at the moment. People are respecting the fact that, well, we're all stuck at home. Having somebody drilling into the concrete is not a nice noise for the entire building to deal with. So they're complying. Our metro is shut down. We have limited bus and tram services for essential employees only with a special ticket. Our supermarkets are still open, but you get your temperature checked when you go in and you have to wear a mask. And you have to stand a certain distance from people in the queues. We have the restrictions in place. The problem we do have, though, is we don't have enough testing going on. So unfortunately, our numbers, whilst are low, they may not be a true picture. Because this virus is actually a flu virus mutated. Now, as a flu virus, it has the typical flu virus symptoms. So for healthy people like us, we can quite easily, we could have had it with we could have had it in one night.
Mm-hmm. I think
I'm a bit plugged up tonight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll go have a shower, bit of steam. Good night's sleep. Yep, I'm fine. We could have had it and not realized we had it. So on one side, we've got this amazing compliant society. On the other side, we've got an incredible government who are doing what they can to mitigate the disaster that's happening. We don't have, I heard today from one of my clients in Germany that businesses in Germany are getting a €9,000 injection from the government. We don't get €9,000. We won't even get 9,000 grivna. Now, we won't get 9 grivna actually, which is our local currency. The country doesn't have those sorts of funds to do that. But they're asking those people in the country who have that money, the oligarchs, they're asking them to help fund medical facilities so that should our people suffer, they can get the best medical care possible. And I'll tell you now, whilst we have a lot of old, rundown hospital conditions, we have some of the finest nursing and medical staff in the world. We have world-class doctors and nurses here. I know, they saved my life. Having 5 of them work on me was just mind-blowing. And then the nurses was just a blessing, these angels. So we're taking it seriously. We're disinfecting everything. We're all wearing masks, whether we need to or not, whether it helps or not. We have people making masks. We have women sitting at home with their sewing machines making masks because of the shortage in the country. There's one girl, she's making masks for children for free. She's got this huge amount of material. And so she's creating as close to medical grade as possible masks for children for free. We have an amazing community here.
Do you have any insights for people across the world listening to this as to what we can do to get through this and to overcome it at the sort of the individual level?
Okay, at the individual level, it's now take time to know you. Use this time to get to know you. How do you tick? What makes your mind tick? What feeds your mind? And the scary part is there'll be people who, what feeds their mind is negativity. What feeds their mind is avoidance. What feeds their mind is emotional eating or emotional drinking or emotional drug taking. Get to know you. Understand you better. That's how I've gotten to where I am today, to be able to be on TV to a huge audience. It's ridiculous the numbers of people that have seen me in the world now. I had a goal. I wanted to be heard by 1 million people, and I ended up with over 100 and 150 million have heard my voice. That's insane. Now I'm looking at growing to the next level. I've got a lot more to achieve, and so do you, each and every one of us. And we have a choice to make. We can continue on down the path of ignorance. Oh, yeah, it's somebody else's problem. Or we can compete with the Joneses. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, but everyone wants to compete with you. Or we can be what I said earlier that I had to do. I had to become the best me. And the way I did that was I learned who I am. I learned how I react. I learned what my triggers are. I learned what my weaknesses are, and I learned what my strengths are. but I didn't beat myself up over them. Yes, I could tell you quite easily what my weaknesses are, but I don't need to. I know to love those weaknesses and take actions to help myself heal and grow within them, but not focus on them and beat myself up about them, the things that I can't do. I'm a really average swimmer. I'm an average to weak swimmer. Okay? I'm not a good swimmer. That could be considered a weakness. Well, it is if I was a lifesaver, if I was a surf lifeguard, that would be a weakness. But overall, it's minimal to my life. I don't need to be a super strong swimmer. But if I want to improve that, I can. And there's only one way to improve it, by doing, taking massive freaking action. And so for the people sitting at home right now, wondering how to deal with the quarantine, it's really simple. Take massive action. Not when you're ready, not when it feels good, not because you think the universe is going to be aligned and all this other law of attraction, the movie The Secret, and all that other. Look, the law of attraction is real. The universal laws are very real. But they rely on one factor: movement, action. You can sit and go, I want to be the greatest host on TV ever. I want to be the one thing that I see from a lot of women coaches is, I want to be the next Oprah. No, you will never be the next Oprah. Be the best you. Oprah is an amazing soul, and she has worked at it her entire life. Every day for her entire life, she has worked at it. But she's done one other thing. She took massive action. Whether it was comfortable, whether people liked her or not, shit, they told her she would never be good on TV. And I love this part. Australia loved Oprah so much, we took our most handsome man, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. We stuck him on a pulley on top of the Opera House. We shot him along there and smashed his face into a piece of steel. So he got a cut while she was on stage below him. We damaged his face. The most handsome man in Australia. That's how much we love Oprah. People do crazy things, but take action. Do them whether they're comfortable or not. And then listen to your body. How does your body react while you're doing these things? Is this good for me? Getting that packet of potato chips. Eating that packet of potato chips. Drinking that bottle of wine. Are they good for you? Are they making you feel better? Are you more empowered because of it? If you're drinking with your friends and you're having a lovely, relaxing time, no problem. But if you're sitting alone, feeling sorry for yourself, wishing for a different life, hating the way you're living, it's not the solution. But you have to be honest with yourself what changes you want to make and take those actions. I take actions and then work it out. Because as I'm taking the action, I feel in my body, is this what I'm meant to be doing? And I'll get guided yes or no. I remember standing at the airport at Sydney Airport for the first flight back in 2012 to Ukraine. I was going to a country where I knew no one, to be on a TV show to prove myself to myself. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have a photo of the person who I was meeting. I had 30 hours ahead of me on 3 planes. And I was walking away from my life in Australia. And I knew I wasn't going to live there again. And I remember standing there looking at the board, Thai Airways, and I took a selfie. And I've got that look and immortalized. And I know in that moment I had to do that action. And it changed my life. But it didn't feel comfortable. And the actions that I did, the tasks I did, they weren't comfortable. Now I wrote a book about my experiences here in television called Jayc Ryder, a real psychic medium on reality TV. Now that's on Amazon, or if anyone messages me, I'll give them the PDF for free. Happy to. I just want people to see what I've actually done. It's a life changer when you take actions, no matter what they are. No matter what the action is. Take it, do it, and then deal with it. Feel the change. Is it empowering you? Is it stretching you? Is it making you grow? You go to the gym to work out, your body hurts. Well, if pain was your threshold, I'm not doing anything that brings me pain, you're never going to work out. Because working out brings you pain. Stretching those muscles brings you pain. You'll never go to the dentist. You're going to get pain. Look at what makes you tick and be the best you. Take those actions. Live in the moment so much that the world can't do anything but give you what you need in order to achieve your desires.
You used the words opportunities earlier.
Yes.
I'm glad you used the words opportunities.
This is the greatest opportunity in our life.
Exactly.
We have the opportunity now to transform our lives and way of thinking. We live in one of the most amazing times ever. Your phone. You have an entire business in your phone. You have the ability to make money in your sleep through your phone, through your laptop, through your webcam. You might have to learn something. You might have to grow. You might have to master a new skill. On Sunday night this week, at 12:30 a.m. Monday morning, one of my great mentors, because I have mentors as well as mentoring others, he was doing a presentation from the US. At 12:30 in the morning, I got on that presentation and I participated and I watched and I learnt from my mentor from 12:30 a.m. Sunday night, Monday morning, till 4:30 a.m. when he finished. At 5 a.m. I then went to bed. And yes, I slept till 12. Do what it takes. You've got nowhere else to be right now. Use this time to learn. Now, I learned some things that have enabled me to create an interactive TV show. And I do TV distribution and training. I've got a TV distribution and training company. And so I've learned some techniques that will help me grow. And I've got 3 new TV shows sitting on my whiteboard in front of me over there. And I'm going, how many hours in a day? I've got so many things to produce now. And I know that these shows will change lives, will provide opportunities for people, and I will grow because of them. And so will whoever is involved in them. You have an opportunity in front of you. Look for it. If you want to know how to make money online, look up Sunny Lenarduzzi on YouTube. Look her up. She's an amazing soul. She's not my mentor, but she's a YouTube influencer. She teaches people how to make money online. She's incredible. Her stuff is good value. And it's all on YouTube. It's all free. And she's got her courses and programs that she'll upsell you to, of course. We all do. But if anyone wants to start for free, go to YouTube, sit there, go watch those make money videos, learn, take the action, get moving.
I'd like to start rounding off our conversation today by discussing a couple of key concepts. The first of these, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm grateful to be alive. I am so grateful that every day I wake up. I'm so grateful that I get to communicate with amazing people. I'm so grateful that money flows with abundance through me, enabling me to touch lives. I'm grateful that I have such beautiful internet. I'm grateful for my beautiful home. I'm grateful for my cat. I'm grateful for all my relationships with those who I love and who love me. I have huge amounts of gratitude. I'm grateful to Archangel Michael. Sometimes I get annoyed with him, but most of the time I'm pretty grateful. There's some contracts that he made me agree to when I was dead that I'm having to fulfill that make me grow. They're a little bit uncomfortable, but I can grow because of them. And I'm grateful for that growth. I'm grateful that I have this time right now. I knew this was coming. I've known about this since before the end of last year, because I looked to see what my next year is going to be like. And I heard, for me personally, between March and April, there would be massive transformation. And come the beginning of May, the world would be different. That's just the generic version for public purposes. There was more to it than that for me personally, but that's for me personally. Which is why I can quite happily be sitting here calmly enjoying life, whilst other people are looking at the quarantine, they're looking at the virus, and they're afraid for their lives. I'm not afraid for my life in the slightest. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for this moment that we get to have this communication. I'm so grateful for everything that's been shared during this communication, that you've given me such freedom. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the people that are still listening, whomever they are, and I want to invite them to connect with me. I love people to connect with me. If they add me on Facebook, please do, and say hello. I will answer. It's about, I'm grateful that we get this opportunity to connect. What are you grateful for?
I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I guess there are some obvious things that have been coming out these last couple of weeks. I'm grateful for the space and the time that this situation has provided. As you were alluding to, there's just so many of our priorities and distractions have just gone. They're out of here. So I've had time for creativity, I've had time for reflection, I've had time to do these amazing conversations that I've been doing so far. And linked to that, I'm also grateful that of any time for this to happen, what better year than 2020? Imagine if this had happened 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even
It has
11 years
It
ago.
has happened. It has happened. It has happened. This time has been happening all throughout history. Man has always had epidemics or pandemics occur. It's just the way that they've been handled is different this time. The communication facilities we have is different this time. You've got all the conspiracy theorists out there. You've got all sorts of opinions. And I can tell you now, this pandemic has so many layers to it. It's not just a virus. It's a reset for the entire world. But it's also setting up lives, businesses, governments, environments for the next thousands of years. That's why this is an opportunity, because what will come from this are more incredible opportunities and more amazing inventions and attitudes. And of course, in 9 months, there'll probably be a massive baby boom too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they'll be called I know. You've got the baby boomers and the millennials. This generate, there'll be the corona babies or
the coronials,
isolation offspring, or
yeah, the quarantine or the quarantinis.
Quarantinis, yeah. That sounds like a catchy.
The coronials. Yeah, they're gonna, but it's gonna. Well, there's nothing. I mean, I remember my grandpa on one side of the family. I think he was one of 14 kids. Now, why did they have 14 kids? They didn't have a television.
Oh.
There was no TV back then.
It's fine. My next question is related to children, and we'll go with the current thread of conversation. I want you to imagine you have one of these coronials in front of you, and you're going to say something to them that prepares them for the years to come and the life that they're about to live. What would you be saying to your coronial?
What would I say to a coronial to prepare them for the life they're going to live? The mistake you perceive you will make will be nothing compared to the love you will create. The mistake you perceive you will make is nothing compared to the love you can create. Everyone's afraid to make a mistake, whereas we learn by making mistakes. Some of our biggest lessons come from our biggest mistakes. I know I've had a lot of mistakes in my life. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've had failures. I've had relationships that have come and gone. I've made money. I've lost money. But the one thing that's remained constant through all is I've had to learn to love me and create a life of love. And I have that life of love now. And it's not a love that is codependent. It's not a love that's frustrated. It's not a love that's forced. I just love me now. And because I love me authentically, honestly, without beating myself up for those things that could be wrong. Okay? Because I love me, I can give and love others unconditionally so easily. And it makes life so much better.
Moving from the beginning of life to the end of life, you've had your near-death experience already, and one day you'll kind of make that final step over. And
I find a transition, yep.
yeah, when you do and you look back over the time that you've spent on Earth, what legacy do you want to have left behind you?
Oh, I've already created that legacy and more. I have a legacy where I can look back and I have taught people how to love. I have brought love into their life. I've shown them how to feel love instead of sadness. I've helped people who have lost to understand the love that they had in that time. That legacy has already been created. There's some new legacies about to be created, and those things I'm not going to share because you've got to watch who I am and watch what I achieve, and you'll see the new legacies being created. But I have a very big goal ahead of me. Very, very big goal. And it's going to happen. And that legacy will be, it's the one thing that scares me the most. And what scares me is that I know I can do it and I know it's going to happen. And that's what scares me. And I have to take it one day at a time, knowing that I'm on this path. I see the future, I see the past. I can go into my own past and present, and I can go into my own future. I can go into others' futures and into their past. It's what I can do. It's a skill that I have learned. Yes, it's a skill. I learned a lot of the techniques that I can use many, many years ago. I learned how to do them over 30 years ago. And now I can just quite easily move forward and backwards in time. So that legacy that I'm creating, well, the first one's already created. I'm only a kid at the moment. And I'm creating my new legacy. I have 3 TV shows on my board in front of me. I have 1 TV show on Roku and Amazon right now. I'm going to have another 3 and more. And one of those shows in particular will go worldwide, physically in every country. And there's a little hint as to what my legacy is.
Jayc, for the audience who've been listening today and they feel that they've resonated with something you've shared, something about you, the work that you do, and you've pointed to a couple of things already, but is there anything that you haven't mentioned, directions that you'd point people towards to find out more about who you are and what you do?
Okay, the easiest place for everyone is Facebook, of course. So look me up on Facebook. That's the first place, because from there you can find my websites, you can see my projects, you can connect with me personally. No, I don't have a marketing team sitting there answering my messages. You send me a message, it beeps here. I answer it. I might put it on mute for a little while. I have some people who like sending me messages at ridiculous times of the night or on my day off. They have to wait. My time. But most of the time, you send me a message, I will answer it almost immediately because I'm never far away from this. I have people around the world who rely on me for when they're going through grief. I've had people come to me who were suicidal. I had one woman, she was in the car. She's a very famous celebrity I won't say from which country. She was so depressed, she was sitting in her car with a hose in the basement of her building. She was about to commit suicide. And she'd bought a magazine that I had been featured in. And while she was sitting in the car crying with this hose on her lap because she was about to kill herself, she moved the hose and it brushed open the magazine to the page that had my photo on and my story. And she reached out to me. It was 11 o'clock at night, my time. I wasn't in bed. And she said to me, I'm sitting in my car. I'm about to commit suicide. Now, she was being bullied, severely bullied by the people that she was working with and people that were close to her. So I spent the next 3 hours on a Facebook Messenger call with her, showing her a reason to live and helping her. Now she's back on the red carpet. The depression is gone. She's shining bright like she should. And she's come to terms with what was stopping her. I do what's necessary for people. But I'm not Lifeline. I'm not the counselling service for those emergency situations. But sometimes you need someone to listen, and I will listen. Oh, and I do charge as well. Her, I didn't charge, but I do charge because I have to put food in my belly, and my cat food doesn't come free.
Well, I think that's a great story to finish off on today, Jayc. I've been really struck by your composure throughout our conversation. You're an incredibly composed person, and where you come from and the way that you speak, there's this calm and stillness to you that I've really connected with today. And so I want to thank you for that. And I'm sure the audience have kind of felt that come off you as well today.
Thank you. Look, it's a real honor to be here and share my story. I can talk about my story. I've got, like I said, I got hundreds of stories. Mm-hmm. I've got so much experience, and it's been a joy to have those experiences and to create new ones. And I welcome anyone to connect with me via Facebook or at jaycryder.com. And let's create miracles and live a life of love. It's what we're here for, to love and be loved.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jayc.
You're very welcome.
To continue to help you through this isolation period, I've decided to open up my Author Your Life Academy for free for the next 3 months. Author Your Life is my online educational community where you can access training sessions, workshops, and question and answers, and connect with other people around the world who are going through this situation and trying to make the best of things. The Academy normally costs $27 a month to subscribe, but for the next 3 months, I'm going to open that up for free. Essentially, you're getting a 3-month free trial of the platform. To access the Author Your Life Academy, go to authoryourlife.org/academy, and when prompted, enter the code CORONA in block capitals. Yes, what else would the code be? CORONA in block capitals, and that will take your $27 subscription down to $0 for the next 3 months. The Academy is where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my content during this difficult time. It's where I'm trying to bring people together to help and support each other as we go through this period of isolation, of fear, of uncertainty. I hope the Academy is something that will be able to help you too during this situation. So if you want to come in and join us, as I said, go to authoryourlife.org/academy, and when you sign up, enter the code CORONA, and that will give you 3 months for free. It's my gift to you to try and help and support during this time as best I can. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be, because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.